One more time, good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, March 28, 2026. Good old 710 KNUS, Denver's talk station. Peter Boyles on the air everywhere with two wonderful, wonderful co-hosts this morning, Jonathan and Deborah Flora. 710 KNUS Weather Center weather on a Saturday, 80 the high today. Beat yesterday, and then tomorrow, 81. And on Monday, 82 degrees. Coming up later in the morning, we're talking about John Brooks. I meet this guy, and he was here to do the Jeff and Bill show, and he's running for Colorado governor, and he's a reasonable human, and he's a Republican. And I said, hey.
I think a low bar for governor is starting as a reasonable human, which is a very good beginning.
Man.
Sad state of affairs.
That's right. That's right. Anyhow, you guys are here. There's some, I think it goes without saying, folks know who you guys are, but I got to tell you, Deborah came on the job when I was still doing Monday through Friday.
Yes.
And I went to a holiday party or something, and Jonathan's there, and they said, you know, this guy used to work in pro wrestling. Mm-hmm. And I hear that a lot. When you talk to the guy, you find out they didn't work in pro wrestling. This guy did everything in pro wrestling, and we sat, I think, just by ourselves, and we talked and you told stories, and I went, and I tried to get you to do the show for 2 years, and then finally you agreed to do the show, and I think maybe the three of us did a show together, and then you were running for Congress.
Yeah, and I had a show for a while here on 710 as well, and I mean, coming back home to Colorado, 710 was really my landing pad. It was my home, and it's a wonderful thing. Having worked in director of public policy, one of the things, Pete, that we did together before I started my show was that amazing forum we did down under the dome to push back against injection sites, and that was super successful. And then I started my show, and then
that's where I met you.
Yeah, because I started as the director of public policy here, coming back home to Colorado, growing up on Lowry Air Force Base. My wonderful husband, by the way, great pickup line when we first met. He was a producer at Walt Disney Studios. And before he knew where I was from, he goes, you know, I've always wanted to live in Colorado.
Oh, I like it.
I'm like, who told you that? That's where I'm from.
What are you talking about? She goes, I'm from Colorado. I go, check. But you were also on this, even out of L.A., you were on this station being syndicated.
I don't know if you knew that.
No.
One of my first radio shows, I've been on and off the air for about 15 years, all on Salem for the most part. Now I do guest hosting around different locations, but the very first show I did, we sat in Ed Atzinger's office, another woman and I. We didn't realize we were starting at the top, and there were not enough women on radio, and we were in Los Angeles. But he said, you know, you guys, we did a audition tape. He said, you guys got to have a great show. I think where you need to start is on 710 KNUS in Colorado. At the time, Brian Taylor, amazing GM. And I was like, well, that just happens to be my home. So I started recording in LA, and it aired here every Saturday.
I met him once, and I knew Joe Piscopo. He and I were friends from other adventures.
Yes.
And, of course, Piscopo does Jeff and Billy's job in New York.
Right.
And so I was taken to this, I don't know, a seminar in California. Well, there's Piscopo. And Piscopo knew him.
We actually met Piscopo a couple of times because we were part of that underground conservative organization in Hollywood, and Joe was there. And so, you know, all these circles come back to Peter Boyles.
Well,
there they go.
Or you or Jonathan. But
forget Kevin Bacon. It's all how many degrees away from Peter Boyles.
So
there you go.
I was like laying out. You know, I'm not going to make the boss doesn't need to know who you are. He said, come on, meet him.
Oh, that's
he said,
great.
And Piscopo was well, you had to know Piscopo away from the microphone.
Right.
And he's a New York guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he can do a mobster so quick.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I want you to meet him. And so I met him, and that was where I met those. They were the owners, and I was working for them.
Right.
And I met them in California. Yeah, it was he and his brother-in-law.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's why it was so great moving back home here with our kids. And Jonathan was still going back and forth between Walt Disney Studios and here.
For a year and a half.
For a year and a half. This was my landing pad, and it was so great.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we moved out here. I was here 2 weeks, and then drove back. Drove back. And I would fly out for a 4-day weekend, stay in L.A., Burbank for 3 weeks, come out for a 4-day weekend for a year and a half while we were negotiating my terms as I was exiting Disney.
Very, very gainful separation plan. It was the first time after all the layoffs at Disney, Jonathan was like, please, I want to leave. And we knew we had to get our kids out of Los Angeles. We had to get back home again. My parents are here. All my siblings are here. We don't regret it, but it's, that was not easy.
It all worked out very well.
Yes.
How long were you with Disney?
About 22 years.
Oh, my heavens.
Yeah.
So you
never had any idea I would end up there. I mean, my path to sitting here with you is not a straight line.
We call it a
in this business?
We call it a Forrest Gump life. That's what we've led, and it's been really wonderful.
That's who we all are.
Yes.
But, so you, when you were working for the Mouse, was that before working for the pros, or was that?
No, that was after.
Okay.
Well, because when I was with the WWF, I started shooting some of their segments, like in-program segments or personality segments. Yeah. We had a nutrition sports supplement line at the time, so I was shooting commercials with them. And then I just got it in my head. I go, well, if I can shoot commercials with bodybuilders and wrestlers, I can go to Hollywood and make an Academy Award-winning movie where you get humbled real quick.
Real quick.
I'm on the cutting room floor of a lot of good movies.
As an actor.
I didn't even make outtakes. That tells you how good I was doing. And then, once again, it's who you meet. And I met somebody, and they told me about this opportunity. Didn't know what I was doing.
I didn't know that.
Got in there, and there's this Seneca is this Roman philosopher.
Yes, of course.
That is credited with defining luck.
Yeah.
When opportunity meets preparation, and I say, look, I'm no Roman philosopher in spite of my number of toga parties I've been to. But to me, it's also when opportunity meets willingness.
Oh.
I may not be prepared, but I know I can do that. I don't know how to do it. Am I willing to jump and learn as I go? That's what you've got to do.
Yes.
Before the show started, we were talking about the shootist.
Yeah.
And in the book, but John Bernard Books is the old gunfighter. And why I remember that, I can't tell you. But the Ron Howard character says to him in the barn, and Books is good for like 21 or 22 guys he's killed. And the Ron Howard character said, Mr. Books, how were you able to do that? And Books said, I was willing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I thought that was just that's the answer you just. And I was the same guy.
You got to jump in and find out.
Yeah, and
what you got.
Jonathan's pretty humble about it. But even though, talk about being willing and then being prepared. He ended up winning major awards for like campaigns for Star Wars and Marvel and all of these different series and everything. So he brought that creativity to it. But there came a point in time where we started our own production company because we cared more about the content of a film than who cares about really being in the end parties of LA. There was one point in time that Harvey Weinstein tried to hire him away from Disney because Miramax broke away, and everybody in Hollywood knew. And we were just like, there's no way.
They knew what he was like.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard that.
Everybody knew.
And not a nice person.
Yeah.
His brother didn't like him.
Yeah.
Correct. Bob did not.
But there's a point in time where, obviously Jonathan only worked on quality projects, which were not morally reprehensible, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But then it was a time where it's like, you know what, we've got to put all of our efforts towards making projects that we believe will have a lasting impact and not just make more money for a studio. And that's when.
And I wanted to see my family.
Yes.
You get into that world, you're not home very often.
Right.
You work crazy, crazy hours.
Yeah.
When you see that up close and personal, and I have a couple of times, and you think to yourself, you be real ready for these guys.
Oh.
And other experiences were great. And films you get into, or somebody invites you in a movie, and yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, and I had temporary insanity and went out there to be an actress. I actually had been on KMGH Channel 7. They were grooming me to be an anchor.
But you were on a soap, too.
I was on a soap for quite a while because it was something that I knew I could walk away from at any point. And I did. At one point in time, I was on a soap for, I don't know, a couple years.
Title of the soap?
It was Passions. It was the craziest one. I'd been on General Hospital and all these others. And what was weird about it, though, is I was in the National American Shakespeare Company. I was I went to the League Theater program at SMU on a scholarship. Man. So I loved the art of acting, but I would be doing, a soap opera by day and then playing Roxanne and Cyrano de Bergerac by night. And I finally was like, this is not a life. And there are many parts I said no to because
You would make a great Roxanne.
well, thank you.
I never knew that you played Roxanne.
Oh, yeah, I played Beatrice in Much Ado About Nothing, National American Shakespeare Company. But there came a point in time where you have to make a decision in Hollywood, and you have to say, before I met this amazing man, I was talking about this the other day, there was an Academy Award-winning director that really wanted to date me. Now, it came with everything else.
Yeah.
His previous girlfriend is a very well-known, successful actress. I knew that was a pathway. But where does, and I'm just going to say this, where does prostitution end and begin? If you are going to give your social, personal self for professional gain, it doesn't matter whether it's becoming a girlfriend or a Harvey Weinstein situation or whatever. This was a very nice guy, but I knew he wasn't the person for me. And at a certain point in time, I'm like, I don't like
Did
this
that
transactional.
cost you when you said no?
Oh yeah. There was another guy that was a very well-known director. He came and he saw me in a play. This is all before the right man I married, and he saw me on camera and he said, "Why aren't you famous?"
Man.
And I said, I think it's because I'm not willing to do what it takes. Now, not everyone does it. Amy Adams is from Colorado. She's a brilliant actress. I don't think she had to play that pathway. She isn't related to somebody famous, which many actors who are successful are. So there are those exceptions to the rule. But you have to make a decision, whether it's selling your soul to get a project made or whatever else like that. And I have no regrets. And the final audition I had for a major motion picture, we had gotten married. We had just had 2 beautiful children. I finally had a movie that I could say yes to. It was a Disney Buddies movie, which are like the golden retrievers. I'm like, how wholesome can you get? And I show up for the auditions between myself and one other woman, and they said, "Oh, we really love you. By the way, this is going to shoot in Vancouver for 3 months over Christmas." And I looked at them and I said, "I'm done." I said, I can't do that. I'm a mom first, and I don't regret that. And I am not Angelina Jolie, who can move an entire household of 20 people for 3 months. And there comes a point in time where you have to make a choice. Is your path of this is the thing about La La Land, that movie. I love it and I hate it. La La Land, the message at the end of the story is this glorified lie they tell in Hollywood. The dream, the goal of success is far more important than any interpersonal relationship. And they try to make it satisfying at the end, and it's not. I have 0 regrets, and I am so grateful that I got to raise our children. I still did like commercials and stuff like that, and that's actually when I started doing radio. Because I thought, when our kids finally started elementary school, I'm like, okay, I still want to have a voice in something. We started our production company, but I have no regret. And Hollywood's a land of regrets.
If you're just joining us, this is one of my favorite 2 people, Jonathan and Deborah Flora. Do you think, and this is sparky, do you think women can see that differently than guys do?
I think what's interesting, and by the time we left Hollywood, I wanted to go into any major party and see these beautiful, beautiful young women who were basically shopping themselves around, and it took everything within me not to jump on the table, grab the microphone, and go, "You have greater value than this." Our culture has gone from the 60s. I wasn't really out there doing these in the 60s.
No,
I'm younger than that. But in the 60s, but what was the fight? Women are more than just objectification. And I'm grateful for that, because we went from women could only be actresses, which it's a noble profession if you do it well.
Yeah, that's right.
Secretary, teacher, nurse, mom. That was about it. And we said, no, we can be radio hosts. We can be producers, which I am.
I'll tell you what, when I got into the business thousands of years ago, there was one woman, and she was called the girl.
Yeah.
And she did the logs.
Yeah.
She sat at the front desk.
Brought the coffee in.
If guys needed coffee. But, I mean, it was radio, too, so it's gut bucket. It's pretty raw. But when I was at the top at KHOW, both of my bosses were women.
Yeah.
Chris Olinger was program director, and Jessica Farias was the sales manager, and the news readers were women, and and so I saw that change.
It did, and exactly, it's changed in so many areas. But in our culture now, it has gotten regressive to a certain extent. Now women are still told, particularly in Hollywood, it's all about who you are sleeping with. It's all about how you look, and are you, well, you watch it in Disney stars. They grow up, and Jonathan saw this up close and personal.
Especially Disney Channel girls.
Like Miley Cyrus, or even, who, you name a person. They're sweet and whatever, but at a certain point, little girl, you got to sell yourself as a sex symbol, and you got to go through that transition. And granted, people like seeing attractive people and charismatic people. But,
well, that's who gets there.
Yeah, it is. And by the way, that is the thing about Hollywood. I was second up to Miss America. I was Miss Colorado. So was about every other person that goes out there.
Yeah.
And they have been told that you are special, you are unique. You have to, at some point in time, it doesn't have to be Hollywood, it has to be any profession. What are you willing to give up for that success?
But
and it's just not worth it.
But in fairness, isn't that true? I mean, just...
Well, you have to decide your own balance. Like I made the comment about wanting to see our family. I remember one time we were at an award show, and this woman had won an award for a TV show, and she gets up there and she actually just starts bragging about, we sacrifice so much and willing to do it. We've been on our third marriage. Our kids never see us. And she was saying as if it was a badge of honor. And Deborah and I are looking at each other going, that piece of hardware, that's so sad.
Yeah.
That's not what it's all about. Because at some point, you're going to get old and you're not going to get hired. And who are you with?
You
You're
I
by
had this
yourself.
conversation with 1,000 years ago, was Roddy Piper.
Oh, yeah.
Of all people. And he said much what you're saying, but he was, for the folks that don't know, Roddy Piper was a unique human being. And he was a lunatic, but I absolutely loved him. I don't know if you knew him at all when you were working.
Yeah, well, he had already left the WWF as full time, but he came back a couple times to do his what was
Piper's
it? Piper's
Pit.
Pit.
Piper's
That's
Pit.
what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bret Hitman Hart was the same
Cool.
way. He big family guy.
I spent a while, but he ended up divorced and he moved on.
The
And,
business does that.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Most businesses do. I mean, there was another example where this business, or, as you mentioned, I ran for Congress. I remember when our kids were 5 and 6, I was speaking at a really large event in Los Angeles, and someone who had the means and meant it heard me speak and said, "You need to run for Congress. I will help fund your entire campaign." Our kids were 5 and 6.
In L.A.
In
That's
LA.
not going to go well
and
in
I said, first of all,
California.
never in California. Colorado's my home. And I said, if I do that someday, it will be after I've raised my children. Now, I'm not judging others who make a different choice, but you have to decide what is the plumb line of value to you. And mine was always my faith, God, my marriage, our kids, and then career. And understanding as a woman, there are seasons, and you can do things in different seasons.
I agree with what you're saying. What I've witnessed is Peter saying this, and we are a minute to the break, and then lines are open, 303-696-1971. My experience has been the exact opposite. I mean, and you're a North Star in saying what you're saying, but reality
It's tough.
deals off the bottom of the
Well,
deck.
and you do sacrifice things. I did not have a successful acting career because I made a choice of family, our values, and it's a choice that I look back. It was a choice. But I don't regret the choice that I made, because at the end of your life, people in Hollywood are desperate, and what do they ultimately want? They want to love and be loved. And that actually only comes from real relationships, not from fanship.
There's a song Cass Elliot did called Disney Girls. Have you ever? I love that song.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she wakes her mother up. She's in love.
Yeah.
And it's Disney Girls.
Yeah.
And she see if you can find that Cass Elliot doing Disney Girls. We're coming back. Peter Boyles on the air everywhere on a Saturday with Deborah and Jonathan. And coming up, this guy's running for, you tell me, for governor, John Books.
Your KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area calls for temperatures to be starting to rise early this Saturday morning, out of the 30s into the 40s, with highs today, tomorrow, and Monday, topping off in the upper 70s to low 80s, so well above our seasonal norms of 60 and 30. There will be a chance of a couple of afternoon sprinkles, maybe a very weak thunder shower, nighttime lows near 50, increasing precipitation chances and decreasing temperatures Tuesday and Wednesday. Wednesday, highs down to the 50s. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Here's the song, Cass Elliot. Listen close. Sing about Ricky Nelson. That was the opening of the Nelsons. What a great, it's a sleeper song.
Such
She
a
has a
sweet
beautiful
period.
voice.
Oh, Cass
She always
Elliot.
did, yeah.
But she says, hi, Rick, hi, Dave, hi, Pop, good morning, Mom.
Right.
Did you ever, Ozzie and Harriet.
Yeah.
There you go.
And so
There you
she's
go.
singing about like you were saying.
Yeah, it's a little bit more of an idealized time of what was really
yeah.
going in Hollywood at the
Well,
time.
that was
but
it.
yes, yeah.
And she said they're Disney girls, and
Yeah.
you know, and I met Annette Funicello 2 different times.
Did you really?
Oh, she was like the best.
I heard you talking about Dale Evans and Roy Rogers.
yeah.
One of the most surreal experiences I ever had was when I was in LA, and it was because of I had been in the Soviet Union as second runner-up to Miss America. We traveled there with a mission trip. So she had me on her radio show, her TV show at the time. And I remember sitting there thinking, Dale Evans is now singing Happy Trails to You to close the song. How in heaven's name did I get here from Lowry Air Force Base in Aurora?
No, you ask yourself, and let me just reset everything, but
Yes.
there's a song by a guy named Snuff Garrett. Mm-hmm. And Snuff Garrett, and I got to know him when I was a country jock, and he did a song called Hoppy, Jean, and Me. And dig that one up. I'm calling the all-male jukebox on the other side of the wall. So his mom worked in the defense plants in California during the Second World War. No daycare, no nothing. Snuff's a little kid. She would put him in the movie theaters, and she would go to work. And he'd sit in the theater all day.
Right.
Gene and Roy and Hopalong Cassidy raised him. They were his fathers.
And you know, it's interesting, in the movies in those days, there were some very good values. It was the hero's story. It was good overcoming evil. It was courage and all of that.
Always.
It's a little bit different. One of the reasons why we started a production company is because the message of the movie matters so much. And Hollywood went through a transition to where it was a celebration of the anti-hero. I wouldn't want it to raise our kids today. I would put it that way.
Listen. Can we play? So I have a reset. Let's do this one. It's Saturday, March 28, 2026. Peter Boyles on air everywhere. And in studio, as always, Jonathan's with me and Deborah's here, and we had Patty Calhoun on and coming up here in a little bit. We were going to do open lines. Now we rolled into this, as I always say, talk radio, no man, its master. Snuff Garrett is absolutely a brilliant songwriter. He writes this song, and it's like Disney Girls. It's a sleeper. And when I first heard it, it made sense to me.
Yeah.
And so Snuff Garrett, we have it? Now listen just for a second, everybody, with apologies. Let me have this one, Hoppy, Jean, and Me. She's watching the movies. Snuff Garrett was a legend, and of course the song speaks for itself. And that's an emotional song for me.
Well, you know, when you listen to those lyrics, you visualize it.
Oh, you
see
see
it. You see the freckle-faced kid. You see the scrape knees. That was us.
It was Snuff.
And Peter, why does that bring out that emotion in you? I like seeing that, and it shows the power of art and storytelling.
Yeah.
I think because I'm becoming an old guy.
Oh.
And when I met him, when I met Snuff on some other stuff, and he was friends with Larry Mahan. That's how I met him. And I tried to ride bulls, and I got to know Larry and Larry's band. And we were telling those stories the other night about going to Cheyenne with Larry Mahan and his band and Kurt Gowdy. And I saw a bar fight up there that was one of the records. And it paid off in Sturgis, but Larry had a band, and they used to do Wide World of Sports. And Kurt Gowdy, who was
the agony of defeat,
he was the man. And Kurt would do the only rodeo that was on television was when Kurt Gowdy took Wide World of Sports to Cheyenne. And I was trying to get on bulls, and so a guy named Bob Edson and a guy named David Allen got me a job working on the chutes, giving names of bulls and cowboys back up to the producer. And so I got to know Larry, and they knew I was trying to do this stuff. And so that night, there was a place called the Hitchin' Post, and it's not there anymore. The Hitch is pretty much closed, but it was the place. And so Kurt's there, and Larry's band's there, and they're talking, and Kurt's talking, because me as a boy growing up, he saw 5 minutes to midnight. He saw midnight. He saw those legendary animals, horses and bucking bulls. He saw them, and he talked about them. So this one, and I got to sit at the table, and this woman comes in. This is one of those moments in time, and she had a Greenpeace jacket on. Who wears a Greenpeace jacket to Cheyenne?
Somebody very courageous.
Somebody, no,
just not.
And
thank
so,
you.
Or foolish.
So
Yeah.
Larry's up there, and he said, we got a really special guest here, and let's see if we can get her up to sing a song, Miss Tanya Tucker.
Oh, I remember you sharing that.
And it was
yes.
Tanya Tucker in a Greenpeace jacket, and she was running with a guy named Bobby Brown, who was a bronc rider, and she did a song called "While You're Out There Riding Rainbows," and it's about Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown's about 3/4 tough. I mean, he was on all those guys that came out of Texas, those Texas rough stock riders. Watch out. So when Miss Tucker gets up, some guy decides that he's gonna grab, and I thought, and he did, and she spins on him, and the fight's on, and Bobby Brown comes over, and this is a big fight, and so jump ahead in time 1,000 years. We're in Sturgis, and there's a celebrity ride, and Tanya Tucker's appearing, and they asked me if I'd ride, and I'm back about 12 bikes from her, and she's on a Road King. She's riding her own bike, and they said Tanya Tucker's up there. So I walk up and I think, I want to take a shot at this, and I said, Miss Tucker, and she looks at me, yes, and I said, can I ask you about something? And she said, yeah, go ahead. And I said, I was in the Hitchin' Post in Cheyenne. She said, Billy.
I wasn't the one who grabbed you, though.
No. She wanted her manager to come over and verify the story.
That's
funny.
funny.
It was Hooter Brown and her, and Hooter went to jail, and I mean it was a hell of a night. But
wow, that's colorful.
welcome to Cheyenne, and those guys, that was another universe of those guys too.
Yeah. This is why you've got to put the words to paper.
Yes,
Well,
so
You've got
many
a
stories.
lot of stories. You've got a well-traveled path.
Douglas
trail.
MacArthur, me and Douglas.
That's the title of your book.
Yeah.
Me and Douglas.
My nephew, who grew up with my brother, and he's brilliant. I mean, he's one of these one of a kind kids. He's doing a book called "That's Why We Moved to Texas."
There you go. There you go.
But Douglas MacArthur, his biography was autobiography, was a book called Reminiscences, and he made the deal. He sold the book. They gave him the money, and the only deal that he had was he had to die before they'd publish.
Oh, interesting.
And he died, and they published that book.
Wow.
And he did.
It's almost like Grant's story.
Yeah, very much.
With his
for the
autobiography.
tomb. For the tomb.
Yeah.
I take the tomb. I take the money.
Well, don't do that. Write your book
No.
now. Don't do a MacArthur
It's
deal.
hard. No, because that way you have to fade it. You gotta.
Yeah, right.
And I think like pro wrestlers write those books, and they're great.
Yeah, they're tell-alls.
Oh, they shoot. Let me read this about Dan Kaplan, who should also write a book. If you want your case to be taken seriously, you should choose a law firm that's taken seriously, and it's Kaplan Law, taken seriously. Danny's firm, the real trial firm, and provides the truth and proves the truth when the insurance carrier doesn't pay, or it should, in an out-of-court settlement. Dan Kaplan's the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 11 straight seven-figure jury verdicts, and it's a record $205 million. I mean, amazing, $205 million jury verdicts, wrongful death cases, largest truck crash case jury verdict in Colorado history. Danny helped my family, and I can't tell you how terrific he is. Dan Kaplan Law, serious firm for serious cases. They accept righteous cases, death cases on percentage fee basis. There's no upfront fees. There's no charge. Initial consultation, you speak to Dan. Dan Caplis Law has offices in Greeley, Denver, Loveland, Fort Collins. If you want your case to be taken seriously, call Dan, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com, CAPLIS Law.com. I'm going to bring up Tiger Woods because I'm watching this, and you said he blew zeros.
Yeah, I mean, they first of all, you have a car accident in a suburban neighborhood, and you flip the vehicle. You're not going to speed limit. All right.
No, he was. They were alleged speeding.
They arrest him on DUI. He spends a day in jail. I'm not sure if he spent the night in jail. And then this morning, it's released that he blew zeros.
Yeah.
So what they kept talking about yesterday a lot is how much pain he's in with all the back surgeries, et cetera. So you start speculating if it's painkillers, et cetera. But we really don't know. But
he's 50.
It's sad.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I remember him playing golf for LSU as the teen sensation. And now, like you said, he's 50. But what's really sad is when so many of these people, we read it way too often, they are at the top of their, and I mean the pinnacle, top of the game. And this is where they end up, with decisions and choices.
Yeah, it's interesting. It kind of reminds me of what we were talking about. Whatever pathway or career you choose, you have to balance out the sacrifices that get made. It reminds me of the John Elway documentary. He talked about how to be the very, 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 very best.
Can you imagine?
He had to make sacrifices, and he talks about the regrets of, his family life because of it. And, we live in a culture that absolutely so elevates being the best, the most famous, the most proficient, the wealthiest, or whatever. And sometimes I think we need to take a step back and say, we need to recalculate also being the best human being you were meant to be. And there's more to it than just your career. And
again,
it's just challenging.
I know that's true, and I know it's right, but ...
Yeah.
Look at Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A couple of bodies in the back, truly. And I think anybody that, someone once said, the highway to hell, but
it's not always the case. I remember growing up here, our amazing senator that we all wanted to run for president, Bill Armstrong. But I do remember meeting him once, and I just always remember my father, who was a lieutenant colonel, speaking of Bill Armstrong with such respect. Oh. But I remember growing up as I was a young teenager, and I just said, will you run for president? Because I didn't know much about politics. Yeah. And he said, I won't, because I love my family too much. He made that calculation.
I worked for him.
Yeah. Oh, did you? Yeah. He
Yeah.
made that calculation. I think he made an incredible lasting impact. I'm not saying you can't make a lasting impact, but if your number one is to achieve what the world would think is the highest level of success, he could have been president. He chose instead to be a success also in his personal life.
But look at Tiger's son. Tiger's son's a monster. The kid's a golfer.
Great genes, by the way.
Hey, what?
Well, it's like they said, if you want to be an exceptional athlete, choose your parents wisely.
No, sure.
And there are exceptions, but unfortunately, they are exceptions. I mean, like our pal Gary Sinise.
Sure.
He's a guy that could live this total Hollywood life if he wanted, but he chose not to. Married to the same woman, takes care of his family.
Yeah.
Ron Howard, same thing. Gets away, lives in Connecticut, makes a movie, goes back.
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to a choice. And when you're talking to people at this level, whether it's filmmaking, sports, Hollywood, there's an innate drive. You're wired a certain way to be a competitor, to be the very best you can be, and then you have to decide what sacrifices you're going to make along the way.
Great prize fighters. I mean,
how many hits you're going to take?
Yeah.
And now, I'm telling you, you look at, especially on this end of life, and you look back and you go, and I asked Patricia, about regrets, one or two, but one of the steps in recovery is the step of, you have a regret and an amend, and how do you make the amend? Some you can't make.
Yeah.
Let's go get serious again. So somebody's saying Disney is evil. Stand by, 710 KNUS. We'll read them to you right after this. Art Garfunkel. She's the Rage. Same song, Disney Girls. You pick them, we play them. A mouth to sound, a wax to watch. 80 will be the high today. The Floras are with us. Coming up, John Brooks will do this. Let's turn this thing into Open Lines Talk Show. 303-696-1971, 81 tomorrow, 82 on Monday. We have the No Kings, we have the war in Iran, and then we have Tiger Woods. So we'll do a jump ball here in a second. David Ellis, spoke with David on the phone on 2 days ago. And David, you heard me talking about David taking your valuables to David Ellis Jewelry to get a fortune in cash and secure an appraisal from David for all the valuables you have tucked away in your home. Still true? Share the other reason to see David, just in case you don't have a Rolex watch, rare coins, or a silver tea set. Go see David for all of your most meaningful gift-giving occasions. David Ellis Jewelers, just the right item at just the right price for the special people that mean the most. An antique watch, an emerald pendant, a gold necklace, or a diamond ring. This trusted jeweler has been buying precious metals and antiques here in Colorado for decades. I've known David forever. Dazzling cases filled with hundreds of new and used pieces your loved ones will treasure. See the man. Visit David Ellis Jewelers just to see for yourself. He's there as we speak, 6 days a week. The black awning on the corner of 3rd and Clayton and Cherry Creek. Explore DavidEllisJewelry.com or call my friend David, 303-322-8779, 303-322-8779. Walk in and tell him I sent you. David Ellis in Cherry Creek. We're sitting here and we're eating up the show, doing things that we wanted to, that probably should not work. But Deborah and Jonathan are here. And as I mentioned, I met John Brooks, and he was with Billy and Jeff. And I was out in the pit outside, and he came out, and we sat and talked, and he's impressive, so we invited him on the show. Let me read these things so everybody can. So Disney is evil. Number one, black actors and women actors and gay and trans actors. When Disney was good, all white women were missing, no gays that you knew of.
Not quite sure that's what we were saying. We're talking about the message in the movies, not who's participating.
All right, Peter, the Hitch burned down in 2010. This is true, due to an insurance fire. The owner got 6 years. No, that's not true. That isn't true. The owner had passed away, and they're redeveloping the property. That's true, too. Peter, Woods refused a urine test.
Yeah.
So drugs in his system he didn't want to disclose. He spent the night in jail. Now, that's our first topic, 303-696-1971. This is also No Kings protest, and this is also the war in Iran people were talking about. So jump ball, whatever you guys like to jump into.
Yeah, real quick, there's so much to talk about.
Yes,
We're
there
still
is.
fighting whether you have to prove that you're a citizen to vote. Iran is not a victim. The Colorado GOP needs an adult in the room. Vince Vaughn has called out Hollywood, which is a very interesting
I saw
thing.
that.
What happened to Sheridan Gorman is horrible, and what the governor and the mayor are saying are despicable.
I agree.
But something I do want to celebrate, boys do not belong in girls' sports, boycott. And finally, the Olympic Committee agrees with the announcement a couple of days ago.
Oh, you knew
that's
they
a
would.
big deal. Well, they had
I mean,
to.
I didn't know you would know that.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I mean, because the last Olympics shouldn't have happened. We're all remembering the boxer with the poor girl getting the crap beat out of
There's
her
an
by a
MMA
guy.
fighter. There's an MMA fighter. His last name is Fox. He uses that name. He's a guy.
Yeah, this
And
stuff has got to stop.
He's broken 3 women's jaws.
Well, I think it's interesting. The minute that the International Olympic Committee hired the new director,
the first female in their history, by the
right,
way.
and pretty much she said, we're going to reopen this, we're going to restudy this, and we're going to look at the science. And that's the thing, is it's, if the science wasn't there, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But the science is very clear that even in utero, if you have the certain, chromosome, you're going to get doubts with testosterone, greater muscle mass, greater bone density, even prepubescent periods, and it's just science.
Those guys, and I'm not in anybody's league, but they train all of their lives for one shot.
Yeah.
And when Jimmy Carter because of the Soviets in Afghanistan. Jimmy Carter pulled out of the Olympics. And I got to meet some of those guys.
Yeah.
They were angry.
Oh yeah.
That was their window.
Well, and
And
think
they
about
weren't getting it back.
Think about young women who, I was not an athlete. I had asthma growing up. But I always admired it. And the entire point of Title IX was to create a biologically based level playing field. And you meet young women now, and Jonathan and I met several of them who spend countless hours, sacrifice. We were just talking about striving for excellence to only get to their senior year in high school and realize
They're
that, no scholarship opportunities, all of those sacrifices they made. And what are we teaching young women to not stand up for themselves and make a difference? But that's changing.
Yeah, and that's what Christy Coventry said, the new chair of the Olympic Committee. At the Olympic Games, even the smallest margins can be the difference between victory and defeat.
Tenth of a
so
second.
it is absolutely clear that it would not be fair for biological males to compete in girls' categories. What took them so long?
Right.
And why is the rest of the world still struggling, including right here at Jeffco?
Yes,
with all their
indeed.
violations.
Over 60 male athletes.
61, I think.
Other than Ronda Rousey and Muhammad Ali's daughter. You're not stepping in there.
No, I'm not getting in the ring with
No,
her.
of course not. Holly Holmes, I mean, I give you a handful, but they're really good.
Yeah.
But
Well,
but they're not fighting guys.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's
Correct.
interesting. Oh no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Even the women's soccer team, the U.S. women's soccer team, and Megan Rapinoe, who was fighting against this, they lost to a Texas high school boys team.
Sure.
And it's not something to be ashamed of. It has nothing to do with political agendas or social agendas. It simply has to do with biological reality.
Yeah, you want to win.
And a fair playing field.
Downhill skiers, a sport that I also love. The men are that much faster.
Yeah.
The men are that much better. Not because it's because they're guys, and it isn't. You can't fake it. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do it, but not out there.
Well, and Colorado voters are going to have an opportunity to make that the law of the land here in
What do
Colorado.
you think is going to happen?
Oh, the ballot initiative to protect women's sports, to make Title IX exactly what it's supposed to be. And by the way, not just women's sports, but 14-year-old girls not being forced to shower next to anatomical males. That's just common sense. It would create 3 categories. It would create boys and men's sports, women's and girls sports, and co-ed sports. That is fair for everyone. It polls so high, Peter, and this is the way it is going. Common sense is reigning.
Well, nobody wants their kids or grandkids in one of those jump ball situations.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when they're getting physically hurt. I mean,
Well, I'm
it's
telling
the
you.
poor volleyball player that suffered traumatic brain injury because of being spiked. I mean, you cannot.
There's a
again,
point.
they're very selective in their science, only when it's in their argument. But you cannot continue to ignore biological sex and claim it's fair.
And by the way, the other thing that feminists fought for ages, Paula Scanlon was the teammate of William Thomas, Leah Thomas, and she had been sexually assaulted when she was younger. So here she's dealing with this during the Me Too movement. And she said she was forced to change right next to him. He was completely anatomically male. And she said it takes a long time to get in that swimsuit. She was told she did not have a right to stand up for herself.
Read this to you. One doesn't make the other, but point of fact, lesbians were banned from the Olympics until the 70s, expelled from college if discovered, thrown out of the military. Were those better days? No, but one doesn't make the other.
It's a different
Yeah.
conversation.
That's totally wrong. We're talking about a lesbian is an anatomical
Woman. It's a woman.
chromosomal woman.
Yeah.
She should not be banned from competing in female
No.
sports. It's completely
No.
different. We're talking
No.
about biology here.
Yeah, I mean, and yes, the answer is, of course. But
Those were not better
when
days.
people bend, and it goes without saying. And I have no idea when that started. And I have a son. I'm going to watch him play football on Sunday. And there's girls that are, when he was a little boy playing, there are girls that played. They played flag, and there was girls playing. Now we're getting up there, and he's bigger than me, and and
He can lay somebody out.
well, no, he got his new football shoes, size 13s.
Wow.
I said he's got a job putting out brush fires in Aurora, and I said now girls can't quite make the cut. We'll come back. We'll do it. Hang on, everybody. Say Saturday morning on Peter Boyles 710 KNUS.